Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We are here to answer your questions on B2B or business-to-business e-commerce. This is our third e-commerce webinar, and each one focuses on a different topic. We chose B2B this month because we've seen a lot of growth in this channel, and since it's a big opportunity for many companies. The global B2B market is estimated to be around $12.2 trillion, which is 6 times as big as the B2C or business to consumer market. Yet we mainly talk about B2C or business to consumer e-commerce. Often when we think of business to business, we picture a purchasing manager looking at a black and white catalog, placing a phone call to their supplier to order 10 more widgets. But that is not what's happening today. As you can see, about 75% of spending is projected to happen via online marketplaces. 89% of B2B researchers use the internet in their research process, and they conduct 12 searches prior to engaging on a specific brand's website. Another factor in B2B e-commerce is millennials. 73% of B2B buyers are millennials, and half of them expect same-day delivery. 79% of B2B buyers expect personalized buyer journeys, and 74% of all B2B buyers research at least half of their purchase as online. All this is saying is the B2B consumer is expecting the same experience they have when shopping for themselves. And we hope to help you today how to execute and deliver a website that your B2B consumer expects. Okay. A little bit about our speaker today. Tim has spent the past 25 years building custom software solutions, 15 of which were focused on the e-commerce industry. Tim founded a development firm in 2010 and sold it to Liventus in 2017. Joining Liventus at that time, Tim's primary focus continues to be e-commerce development. His customers rely on him to be an expert and a problem solver, helping them unlock business potential by leveraging technology solutions. He has worked with clients in the apparel, health foods, jewelry, entertainment equipment, and live theater industries. He's been implementing websites on the Magento platform since it launched in 2007, and they're now owned by Adobe. But he has also experienced building completely custom websites on WordPress and WordPress sites. So we're doing this webinar Q&A style as the sole intent is to answer your questions about B2B e-commerce. If you have a question, just scroll below the video and you'd see a place to enter your question. So I'll give you a minute to familiarize yourselves with the format. When you registered, we asked participants to submit their questions in advance if they wanted to. So we'll start with those. Once we get through those, Tim will start answering the questions that come in live. So I will find my first question here and we will get started. Just one moment. There we are. So our first question is, how would the B2B consumer manage other users on site? Since one company could have several users, how would I link them back to the same company? Hi, Tim. Sorry, we can't hear you.
Thanks. Sorry about that. I was on mute. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So that's a great starting question. Obviously, if you're going to have your users placing orders on your site, it's important to know what customer that order is related to, and make sure that all of the users that need to use the site, need to place orders, can get access to it. As the question obviously refers to, what if you have multiple users in your company that are responsible for placing orders? This may not always be the case. Sometimes you're going to have just a sole purchaser that's working with this business. But in some cases, you're going to have multiple people that need to be able to access the B2B site, whether it's for placing orders or for other resources. So I have a really great example actually of this. We worked with a custom B2B e-commerce build for one of our health food clients. This is Now Health Foods, which is the largest health food manufacturer in the United States. And we built out their business-to-business ordering portal for their customers. I want to show you an example of what this user management looks like for this customer. So let me just share this with you. Danielle, if you can expand that slide there. So what you're seeing here is essentially the first user that registers with as that retailer or with that retailer, it automatically gets created as an admin user. So we're making the assumption that the person that's coming in and creating this account in the first place is going to be the first person, the person that's going to have the primary control of the account. So that person's an admin. Now, once they have registered and logged in and they have this admin access, they can come in and they can add any users they need to. You can see down at the bottom of the screen, there's a create new user section. And then they can also manage any of their existing users. This tool set's pretty nice. It's a very easy view for them to see what users exist in that site. But you can also see there's the opportunity for some specific permissions per user. So the first user that logged in was this Acerta user. They are given the admin access. You can see that they're active. You can see that they have the opportunity to do online ordering. But in this case, some of their users only needed access to certain parts of the site. So we do have, for this particular client, we have an online education tool built into their B2B portal. Many of the users only need to log in here to get access to training resources and education resources. Well, some of the users actually need access to place ordering. That's a more limited set. And then some of them need access to the digital asset library, which is basically marketing materials that Now Foods provides to their retailers. So we built a variety of functions in here, but allow the essentially the admin at the retailer to manage these functions and control what kind of access they have. One other thing on this, though, is that this is really nice to give your users that control. But some of your users may not be that tech savvy. Some of them may not want to have to learn how to use this interface and log in. So the other thing we've built is that the customer service department at Now Health Food has access to edit the same information for every retailer. So they can get into a similar version of this screen. They can search for the retailer they want to manage, and they can go in and change those things for the customer. So if that particular retailer doesn't want to come in here and try to use this system themselves, they can reach out to customer service and get support with it. There's also instances why that's important. For example, if your admin user, who is the first person that set up the account, maybe that person leaves the company, well, somebody's going to have to go in and change those permissions. So customer service can help their retailers with that feature set. This is one example. There's a lot of different ways to kind of do this depending on what your business needs are and your security needs and things like that. But this is one great example of how you can manage your users. Now, a lot of B2B focused frameworks will support this type of functionality. For example, this happened to be a custom build, but we also work with Magento 2 and the Magento 2 Commerce feature set, which has a great B2B tool set available essentially out of the box. Also has employee management tools in here to allow multiple users within your company to place orders.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. We do have another question that came in from Kelsey. She's asking, do I need to have a mobile option for my B2B customer?
Yeah. So yes, typically you want to make sure that your B2B commerce site is probably most critical in this instance. There are going to be some B2B tools that maybe aren't necessary, and this is going to be dependent on exactly what your B2B tools are for. But when you're talking about B2B e-commerce, typically a lot, as Danielle mentioned, a lot of the people that are placing these orders, they may be used to using other devices. So this is not a situation anymore where someone is sitting, in the purchasing department of their organization and working on a desktop computer. Especially in a situation like this where Now Health Foods has a lot of small retailers all over the United States. So, the example I was just talking about, And many of your e-commerce situations are going to be like that. So if you've got a lot of small retailers, a lot of the times the individuals that are running those businesses and are going to be using these B2B e-commerce tools, they may want to be doing this when they're not running their main business. If they're focused on running their retail store, they may not want to be placing orders during the day. Maybe they'd rather be doing it at night while they're sitting in front of the TV. And having the option for them to do that on their phone or their tablet, or to quickly place an order that they realize they're out of even when they're in the store, having a mobile experience is fantastic. We had a great example with one client. We had built their custom B2B e-commerce site back in about 2000. I think it was 2010, so almost 10 years ago. No, it was earlier than that, about 2018. And when we first built that site, smartphones weren't really just coming to the market. They weren't heavily used, and this company's priority was not on a mobile experience. So at the time, it was not built responsive, and it wasn't built to provide mobile usage. But that started to shift over time, of course, as more and more of their retailers were starting to try to use it on mobile devices, and it was not a great experience there. So about a year and a half ago, we went through a responsive redesign on the site with them, rebuilt all the tools they could be used for a mobile device, and they had great feedback on that. What we're finding now is that more than 50% of the traffic coming in to that B2B e-commerce site is coming from mobile devices, which honestly surprised even though our customer knew that their clients were asking for that their retailers were asking for that, it actually even surprised them how heavily it was used. So I think you're definitely potentially shutting some users out of the usage of the tool, or not making it flexible enough for them to use when they need to and where they need to. And so that anytime a tool is less easy for them to use, they're less likely to use it. The whole point of a B2B e-commerce site, of course, is one, to make it easier so your customers can order what they need, which is going to mean more sales for you. It may also differentiate you from their other vendors, which is important because if they have multiple vendors that they could order similar products from, but one of them is just a better experience, that's going to benefit you and potentially send more sales your way. So anytime you can make that experience easier, it's important, and it's never been more important than it is today, and that's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, great answer. I think you're totally right. I think we're going to hear a lot today about experience and making that as similar to the B2C experience. It should be easy, it should be fun, and it should be seamless, right? Okay. So we have another question. Kelsey asked a second question. How do businesses get access to my website? Is there a way to do it automatically, or do I have to review each request? Kind of similar maybe to the first one, but kind of taken in a different direction a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and this is again, can be kind of unique per your business. But one of the things you want to do when you're providing a business-to-business tool is you want to make sure that only your business partners are the ones that are able to access it. So again, we're assuming we're talking about B2B e-commerce. Typically, that means retailers or wholesalers or whoever's buying your product, and you don't typically want consumers using that same tool set. There may be a number of reasons. Your pricing may be different for your business to business customers. You may not sell B2C at all. And so, if your primary market is retail organizations, then you don't want to compete with them in some cases. And so it's important that you're not sharing what your wholesale pricing is or your discounted pricing for retailers is to those. So it's important, bottom line, it's important to make sure that your B2B customers can get access to the site, but you're not allowing access to people that shouldn't have it. Again, it could be consumers and maybe competitors as well, if you don't want to share what your pricing is there. So there's a few ways that you can go about automating this and still making it easy to use without kind of a manual check. Some customers, some companies providing B2B services still prefer to have that manual check in there, maybe because they want to, make sure that credit is going to be okay with the customer that's going to be ordering online and things like that. But I'll give you another great example with the Now Health Food B2B e-commerce site, how we handled this solution. I'm going to show you another screen here. Danielle, if you can share that. Okay, so this is the registration, the self-registration screen for retailers to get in and use the B2B e-commerce site. Now, this does assume that this customer is already a retailer that places orders with Now Health Group. So in this instance, they don't want new retailers to be able to just self-register, because they do vet the retailers, make sure they're a valid business, and make sure that they actually should be placing orders. So they do have a new customer account process that is outside of the B2B registration. But once they have a new customer account, what they did is they made it really simple, really just the key things that you need in order for a user to start using the site, which is a username, their password, and their email address. But then there are two pieces of information here that help them automate the validation process. Number one is that they ask for the customer number. So any existing customer will have this information. It will be on previous communications, or it'll be on earlier invoices. And then the second thing they ask for is a kind of a validation point is a recent order number. So now you have two data points that any existing customer would have, and this validates that they're a valid customer. And then the other thing that we have here is essentially a duplicate check. So if somebody's registering and that customer number is already registered, it won't let another person register here. So you can't have somebody try to imitate this registration process. You can't have even a past employee that might have access to the customer number and recent order number try to re-get in and do that again if this account's already set up. So this is the way that Now Health Group felt was a good enough validation. Some other businesses prefer still to have a manual check, or you can use other things for validation as well. But this is a great way to go. We have another client, a B2B client, that wanted their customers to not only be able to register for B2B use, but also to register their customer accounts fully. And so we do give them an automated form that lets them fill all the information that they would need to become a customer, to go through the credit application process and everything. What that does, though, is it allows the customer to register fully, get all the information, and it creates their account, but then they get a notification that their account is pending review. And so that's another instance where you can still take a lot of the manual steps out, but still leave some review process in there, make sure the customer can be vetted before they're actually allowed to place, to complete orders. They can even place their orders once that's in place. They just won't be fulfilled until they've been vetted. So those are a couple examples of ways you can automate the registration process, but it's going to be kind of unique for every business depending on exactly who your customer is and what your back-end business process is for vetting those things.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. We have another question that came in from Kimberly. It says, am I a friend or foe of Amazon? That's a great question. How can I utilize the retail giant to benefit my B2B business?
So that's a great question. It kind of depends on if you are, it may depend. It's going to depend a lot on your business. In many cases, Amazon is going to be a friend. They can be essentially one of your retail avenues, but they are going to be competing with your other customers, and there's risk of price differentiation. So that's a very complex topic, and it is going to vary a little bit depending on your specific business. Amazon does a couple things for you, though. It's not only about having your product in another marketplace, but also Amazon does offer the opportunity for your product and your brand to get in front of a lot more consumers that they may not through your normal retail chains. And so in some ways, if you're trying to identify the benefit and help your retailers understand the benefit of having your products in the Amazon marketplace, that is one way to talk about it, because once your brand's known, people may start to look for that in other avenues, things like that. The challenge, of course, being that if Amazon is the lowest priced option and things like that, that may be a negative to your retailers. So it's going to depend a little bit on your price and some of your policies and who your consumer is. But in most cases, I would say if you can take advantage of being of using Amazon Marketplace for consumers as an alternative to your normal retail channels, that's a positive. But from a B2B, if you're really trying to get your products just directly to retailers and not sell directly to consumers, they may be able to benefit by putting those products on Amazon as well. So that's another alternative. So there's a couple ways to go there. It's a little broad of a question and kind of a broad answer, but there's definitely opportunities to take advantage of the Amazon giant that's out there.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure you guys saw him while he was answering that question. My fault. But anyway, thanks, Kimberly. That's a great question. And I think a lot of people are facing that, asking the same question. Amazon's become so big and it's hard to avoid. So I think definitely getting educated on what your options are on Amazon, understanding the benefits, understanding what you might be giving up, like control and data and a little bit of branding control also, and then making those decisions based on all of those factors. It's not an easy one, and many companies like yourself are facing that same decision. Okay, so I have a next question is from Emily. She's asking, how do I do personalization for my B2B customers? The same as I would for a direct-to-consumer site?
Thanks. So B2B has some interesting things that you can do. And in many ways, I would say you actually want to provide more customization, more personalization for your B2B customers than your consumers in many cases. You can use a lot of the same types of tools that exist for consumer sites, things like providing shopping recommendations based on history. So that's something that can carry over from a B2C experience to a B2B experience. And that works really well because your retailers, depending on the size of your product catalog and the type of products you have, they may not be aware of all the products you have to offer. So if you can put in front of them the types of products that they specifically seem to specialize in or focus on, that's really helpful. But let's get outside of the the visibility of your products a little bit. Pricing is a huge area with an opportunity for personalization in the B2B space. Typically, when you sell something B2C, you're typically selling at a single price. You may have an MSRP, but one of your retailers is going to sell to your consumers at a standard price, and every customer is going to get pretty much the same price. With B2C, oftentimes you want to provide value to your best customers. So that may mean volume discounts. It may mean discounts based on the type of business that they are. Maybe they're, for example, a nonprofit or something that's going to be a PR benefit for you. So there may be some instances where you want to provide different pricing. Usually volume is going to be a big area of that. And with B2B, you can really specialize that so that each individual user or retailer that logs into your site to place an order will see their unique pricing, and they can see what level of discounts they're getting. I don't have an example to show you, a screenshot to show you right now, but we've absolutely done this in the past, even to the point where some B2C or B2B catalogs actually still want to provide a visibility into what their catalog looks like for consumers. So they may allow consumers to review their product catalog, but the consumer may not see anything as far as pricing, or they may just see what the MSRP is. But when the B2B customer logs in, they can now see the same catalog, they can shop it, and they will get their specific pricing listed there. So pricing is a great way to add personalization, and that can be done. Again, it's gonna vary depending on your business specifically. Another great thing for personalization has to do with the other materials that are important for your retailers to use, or whoever your business partner is. So I'll show you just another example of this. I've got a screenshot here that I think just gives you just a hint into what one company is doing. Danielle, if you can share that screen. Okay, so this again, going back to the Now Health Foods B2B site, which we are using primarily as an example here today. This is just one screenshot, and if you scroll down this page, there's all kinds of digital assets that are available to their retailers. Now, this is their the business-to-business site for their consumer lines of products. So they sell supplements and health food, and you would find their products on any health food store shelf, Whole Foods, mom and pop shops, etc. So those retailers need specific information. And one thing right now they're dealing with is huge demand due to COVID. A lot of people are buying supplements, or they're buying in a greater quantity than they used to. So one thing that they wanted to put up right away recently was a listing for the retailers of current out of stock when they're expecting to get products back in. So this isn't something that was previously available. They wanted to get the information up quickly, so they put this out here. Now, they never want to show this to their consumers, but they do want the retailers to have that information. They also regularly upload things like their weekly sales flyer. Sales are all available in the B2B catalog, but this gives their retailers a more traditional way to view what the sales are and browse those products and things like that. They also have a lot of other materials you can see up in the top here, their digital asset library. That's a library of all of their marketing materials, things like product labels and product shots and lifestyle shots with their products, things like that, that they want their retailers to put on their own in-store marketing materials or local advertising materials, so that their brand is kind of highlighted in that local retail market. So these are all things that are personalized for your B2B customer. But also we find that in some cases you may want different B2B users to find different products. So Now Foods has their consumer line. They also have another brand that is their practitioner line. It's products that are available to medical practitioners and is marketed specifically to medical practitioners. Now, if a medical practitioner retailer logs in here, they will get a completely different branding experience. I wish I'd taken a screenshot of it to show it to you. It's the exact same tool set. We're maintaining one code base for this customer, but they have a different logo at the top. They have different branding. They have a different product catalog, and they also see completely different information in here. Like, they do not see the now specific weekly sales flyer or the out of stock ETAs. They do see things that are specific to practitioners, but they also have other things that are unique to practitioners, educational materials that are more focused on how a doctor or a physician may present that product and how it helps versus the way that a retailer might present it to a consumer. So that's a great example of personalizing not only the pricing, but also all of the support materials that your specific market needs.
Okay, great. Thanks for that answer. We have, and just as a reminder, we have a couple questions here, but if you've joined us, you can ask a question. If you're seeing the video, you just scroll a little bit below the video and there's a section to ask your question and post your question. We can see that and then we'll answer it live. My next question I have is from Sue. She's asking, how do I integrate my B2B site with systems I use for order processing in my CRM, sales management, stuff like that?
Sure. Thanks, Sue. That's a great question. Almost any B2B type of e-commerce site, well, it depends, but most of the time you're dealing with large enough volumes that you're probably not going to be doing your order management from within that e-commerce site. There are many great tools that platforms like Magento 2 offer for order management, order processing, and things like that. But that may not be everything that your business, depending on your size, needs for processing those orders, for fulfilling those orders, and things like that. So most of you as B2B organizations are going to have already a warehouse management system. You're going to have CRM for tracking your customer orders and things like that. So integrations are going to be absolutely critical. This is something that really is tackled on a case-by-case basis, but most often the other systems you're working with are going to provide some kind of access to the data or a way to put data into them. This is usually done with what's called an API, or an application programming interface. So it will be essentially a tool set that the B2B site developer can use to send calls to that other system. Some systems don't have APIs, but they have ways to import or export data that your B2B site can then consume. So this is really going to differ very much based on the needs of your organization and your process and the external tools. But that being said, it absolutely can be done and it should be done. Let me show you. I'm just going to show you one more example from this site I've been showing. Let me provide. Yeah, and I may talk about this a little bit more if we run out of questions here. But this is a pretty interesting tool. So Now Health Group wanted to give their B2B customers a number of very easy tools for placing orders. And one of their primary ordering tool here is what they call their main order screen, the place order screen. The way that this works is that we know we have a local data in this B2B system that knows what the regular pricing is and the regular discounted pricing. So things like monthly specials or regular discounts, those are all stored in this system, and that's great. But when they're dealing with over 15,000 retailers and literally thousands of line by line discount, unique discounts for those retailers, it doesn't make a lot of sense to try to always just pull all of that information directly into this system and store it, so that when your B2B customer is in here placing an order, how do they get that special pricing that's unique to them, that's unique to that particular product? The way we do this with this particular integration is that as the customer enters the SKU or picks a product, they can search either way. It makes an immediate call, an API call out to this Oracle ERP system, which is where they're storing all of their pricing data and their customer data and everything. And it checks that specific customer, and it checks the product and the quantity they're trying to add, and it pulls in this special price. So this gets them real-time pricing. It's an integration that it's real-time, gets exactly what you need at that moment in time. And then as they add it to the cart, it adds that to the general order. Another thing that happens then at the back end of this process is once the customer finishes placing the order and they submit it, this immediately submits the order over to that Oracle ERP system, which is, again, how they do their order processing, and their warehouse management system is all tied into that. So we've now provided the interface for the customers to do their shopping, all the information they need, but a lot of the back office processes are handled outside of the system. And there, like I said, there's a couple of ways that you do integrations, and many ways that you can do integrations, but they are critical, and they absolutely can be done. There's very rare instances where a system is so blocked off that you would not have that capability to interact with it. And if it is, it's probably not the right system for your growing business. Anyway, yeah, there's a number of ways to address those things.
Okay, great. We do not have any more questions at this time. I'm making sure. Tim, was there anything else you wanted to elaborate on, or did you already go into the details?
Yeah, I think if we can give people a little more time. I've got a few more things that I think are pretty interesting B2B topics that are worth touching on briefly. I'll just show a couple screenshots here. I'm going to bring up that last screenshot I just had for you. Just to show you some examples here, if you can share that. So I showed the screen, and this is the primary ordering tool. This is the tool that most of their users use, but this is not the only way for their retailers to place orders. They found that they had retailers that liked to place orders in different ways, and so we gave them a couple different ways to do this. This one's really nice because it just takes a couple of keystrokes. It's easy to use, and very, very much kind of build your cart on the fly. But this assumes that the customer either knows the item number that they're shopping for, or they already know what product they're shopping for, so they can start to type the product name and search for it easily here. For most retailers that have used the system for a while, this works really great. But there's also a couple other tools. One is that we have this advanced search tool. If they go to the advanced search tool, what that's essentially doing is providing a traditional e-commerce shopping experience. So now they are getting more of what looks like I'm going to search for, specific type of product or price range, or a specific, maybe I don't know what the item number is, and I'm not exactly sure which product, so I don't want to try to just pick one from this list. I want to look at a range of products that are all amino complete and see what comes up. So it provides then a full e-commerce view with images. You can click into them, look at product details, product descriptions. Really gives the user the ability to kind of browse that catalog and decide what they want to add to their cart. Another tool that we added was this, there's an import tool. So we are letting retailers not only have to key in or selectively add these things, but they might have their own system that is exporting an order. So it can, an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. This one gives them a simple tool, a simple format for importing an order, and it will just build the order out for them. And then lastly, we put in this really simple tool called Quick Order Entry. And this one just essentially simplifies this even further. It lets the user just type in a SKU. This is where a user really knows the product catalog. They can type in a SKU, tab, type in a quantity, tab. It just validates that that's an accurate product and displays the price. and then they can just go down that list. So it gives them very much like a spreadsheet type of experience where they're just plugging in those things, tabbing through it, and you can place a full order of 30 products in about a minute or less. So that just gives them a variety of tools to use for placing the order, and different size retailers, different demographic retailers just may want to use or feel most comfortable using the site in different ways. So that is one thing that I think is really beneficial, is think about how your customers shop. And although you want to focus on what the majority of them do, you can also sometimes provide tools that hit those that are not the majority preferences. And then if we don't have anything else, I'll show you one more thing that I think is pretty interesting. And that is just, so this is just the main homepage when you go to this retailer portal. And this is a great way to handle if your business to business portal is, you don't really need to share any information with consumers here. Then this is something that you can provide that gives them the main call to action you want for your retailers is just to log in. And so this is right up front. Usually if they're going there, they already know what the tool has to offer, and they just want to get started with it. But it does give a little bit of marketing information to share what's available in here. So as you scroll down the screen, you see in a modern, kind of website format, information about what has to offer. It talks about their online education for retailers. It talks about the webinars they have available. It shows some other information down further about the Now Foods team. So it also gives a little bit of information to potential retailers. They can't auto register as a retailer through here, but it does help them learn a little bit about Now Foods and about what Now Foods has to offer without requiring the user to log in quite at that point. It gives them all the information they need for contacting customer support and setting up their account and things like that. So this tool is going to be used for different ways for different businesses. But if your goal is to get people using it, give them some information right up front that's presented cleanly, that doesn't get in the way of the users that know how to use it, but just helps sell that experience a little bit. And they did a really good job with this particular tool. But that can change a lot. If you've got a product catalog that you really want to show to consumers, but you don't need them purchasing, like I mentioned, you can provide what looks very much like a traditional product catalog site, or even looks like a traditional e-commerce site, without allowing your consumers to order products. But then once the retailers log in, they can get more information about the retail specific experience and pricing and things like that. So user experience is important.
Great, thank you. We did get Eric just submitted a question, so I'll read that to you. How would you recommend enhancing the experience for the B2B audience when the site is primarily targeted B2C, i.e. we have option to log in for dealer distributor, but they don't use it to order? So interesting question. And I think that's a lot of people are facing that, the transition from adding a B2B element to an existing B2B site.
Yeah, so number one is making sure that there's a value for the B2B customer. For example, if they're logging in and they're seeing the exact same thing that consumers are, maybe they're not seeing their special pricing, they're probably going to be hesitant to want to place an order through there, even if you've told them they're going to get their special pricing after the order is placed. So it's important to display what's accurate for them, what's important for them. Another thing is to watch for opportunities, again, providing value. So those retailer tools, like I showed you with this particular website, is giving some information available to the B2B consumers that you wouldn't show to to the retailers that you wouldn't show to the consumers, that give them a reason to come in and start using this tool. But otherwise, it's there is a bit of, if you've got that experience available, but your retailers aren't using it, it's a little bit about helping them understand the value in it. One is, are the tools quick and easy to use? Again, a traditional B2C shopping experience may be a little slower than your retailers want to use. They're used to just calling in an order and listing off some products, or faxing an order, or however they're currently placing their traditional orders. And if they have to go and search a catalog and find each product and then add the quantity, that can be a little clunky depending on what the user is expecting and how big of an order they're placing. So you may need to simplify that experience. otherwise, explain to them what the value is. One of the solutions that this Now retailer portal, for example, was trying to fix was data integrity. What they were finding often was that the retailer was calling in an order, but the person taking the order was transposing a number when they were typing it in the order. They were maybe mishearing them. And so sometimes the retailer would get their order and there'd be some products that weren't accurate. Allowing them to place that order online kind of solves that problem, because they can see exactly what they've ordered. That order gets processed through into the backend system, and there's no risk of that middleman messing that up. So I think that was an early challenge, and it has been a challenge with some of our customers, is that they're used to doing it a certain way. Why would I do it this other way? So if you can provide that value to them and explain that value to them, they may start using it more. And why do you want to get them using the site? A lot of times it can be a cost savings. If you can get your users placing their orders online and automating a lot of that process, you can take people that are taking those orders and give them get more value out of them in other ways. Utilize them for selling to your customers, or for filling other roles in your organization that doesn't require them just taking phone orders. So it can be a big cost savings over time. It can be a value. You can also get happier customers because they're getting the orders that they actually placed and things like that. Providing them out of stock information, visible on the screen. That's another great value you can add, is essentially showing what the stock available is, or if a product is out of stock, or things like that, which they wouldn't get if they're just faxing in an order, or maybe not get if they're calling in an order, if the person taking the order doesn't have that information visible to them. So it's a little bit about making it a value, making it a good experience, but it's also about selling them on the benefits of doing it.
Yeah, great. I agree. And I think we're seeing transitioning their consumers to online not only can be cost savings, but can be revenue generating. You can, the personalization you talked to earlier can be a more robust method to offer recommendations and suggest additional items. And perhaps even with the ease of ordering online, your B2B consumer is more likely to buy from you than from your competitor, and other things along those lines. So I think that finishes all our questions for the day. We're going to give you back about 15 minutes of your hour. But I think ultimately what we're saying is that you kind of take the B2C website, the experience, and have that as the B2B, and then add other features. You really have to start with what you see on a B2C website. It should be that plus additional stuff, right? Additional logins, the additional marketing materials, all of that really helps you. That whole blend builds a really robust and successful B2B site for your consumer and for your company. So again, thank you for joining today. We will be doing these every month. So since you joined us this time, you'll get an email about our topic for next month. If you have an idea for a topic, you can contact us at any time. Go to our website, liventus.com, and submit a topic. But we'll go every single month. We'll be doing a new topic to dive into a different area of the e-commerce business, and hopefully help answer all of your questions and help you build a stronger, better e-commerce business for yourself. And again, thanks for joining. Bye-bye.